You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
How Trump Turned the Presidency into a $5 billion grift, based on an article by Alex Henderson. The presidency as a revenue stream, not a little corrupt. The reported story is simple enough. Donald Trump is using the presidency to make himself richer, and not in the old, deniable way of favors, golf club bookings, and quiet donor access. The New York Times piece cited here puts hard numbers around it: billions tied to crypto ventures, federal financing for a Kazakhstan-linked deal, a Qatari jet, and a settlement branded as an anti-weaponization fund. That is the context. The political meaning is uglier. This is not ordinary corruption with a polished suit on top. It is open self-enrichment at scale, performed in public, defended through spectacle, and normalized by the institutions that are supposed to stop it. Who actually holds power? The central fact is institutional power. Trump holds the presidency. That means he is not merely benefiting from a system he can influence. He is the system's top executive, using the office to turn state capacity into private gain. The article's details make that plain. Federal financing was approved by his administration. A deal involving Kazakhstan was negotiated personally by Trump and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Attorney General Todd Blanche, acting inside Trump's orbit, unveiled a settlement bill to absorb the damage from Trump's private grievance. That is what power looks like when it stops pretending to be neutral. The office does not just permit the grift. It is the instrument of the grift. The enablers, the decision makers are not anonymous. Lutnick is in the room. Blanche is in the room. The federal bureaucracy is moving money. Foreign governments are responding to a president who has made the marketplace and the state indistinguishable from his family balance sheet. And Trump's sons showing up as investors in the Kazakhstan-related deal is not a side note. It is the operating structure. This is how elite impunity works in its most distilled form. The principal beneficiary sits at the top, but the machinery is assembled by loyal subordinates who make the theft look administratively ordinary. Each participant lowers the apparent temperature of the crime. None of them removes the crime. Cynicism is cover. The Times piece, according to the source, argues that Trump has exploited American cynicism more successfully than any modern politician. That is true, but it is also incomplete in a way that matters. Cynicism is not the cause of this corruption. It is the solvent Trump uses to dissolve resistance to it. The real misdirection in stories like this is the familiar habit of treating corruption as an abstract mood in the electorate rather than a concrete series of choices by powerful people. Voters are not the authors of a Kazakhstan deal negotiated by the president and his commerce secretary. They are not the authors of a settlement paid into a Trump-branded grievance structure. They are not the authors of a presidency that keeps converting public office into family profit. The responsibility sits where the authority sits. The scale is the point. The source correctly notes that this is different from the older, softer corruption Americans have been trained to tolerate. Campaign finance evasions and resort payments were already a rot. What changed is scale, openness, and brazenness. The old system taught the public to expect hidden transactions and then called the realism. Trump has escalated the model into something more honest in the worst possible way. He does not bother hiding the extraction very well. That does not make the system healthier. It makes the underlying arrangement easier to see. The lie of modern political corruption was always that the state belonged to the public while private interests merely leaned on it. Trump is stripping that lie down to the studs. What this reveals, the larger pattern is not just one man's greed. It is the weakness of democratic enforcement when confronted with an executive who treats norms as props and institutions as revenue channels. A political class that spent decades laundering corruption through euphemism is now watching a more explicit version arrive with fewer masks and greater confidence. The lesson is not that Trump is unusually shameless, though he is. It is that American institutions were already built to absorb a shocking amount of self-dealing before they admit the structure is broken. Trump is not inventing the disease. He is making it legible. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article. With the automated voice of Sam, thanks for listening.